Welcome back to the Kosi Arsenal channel. My name is Kosi. Welcome back to a brand new video. Arsenal 7, PSV 1 in the UEFA Champions League away in the Netherlands in Eindhoven. What can I say? It was such a complete, beautiful performance without even our main attacking options. Now, Arsenal are really confusing as a team, especially under Mikel Arteta. This is a team that had failed to score in two games that were really important. West Ham at home and Nottingham Forest away. And we thought, listen, this season is over. There is nothing to look forward to. We're going to go in the Champions League against PSV and struggle. And personally, I thought it would be like a 2-1 win for Arsenal. But I also thought that, listen, if we go in that game and PSV win, I won't be surprised. I wasn't very surprised that Arsenal won. It was the scoreline and the margin that actually mesmerized me, and you as well. 7-1 makes me believe that Arsenal are onto something in the Champions League. And I don't want to get my hopes high for this Arsenal team. It is disastrous. It is catastrophic. But I can't help myself but think Arsenal are onto something big, and maybe the Premier League wasn't our year, and maybe the FA Cup wasn't ours this year. Maybe Arsenal could do something in the Champions League. I just feel motivated. I just feel very strong. Now, I want us to talk about the performance. I want us to talk about the Madrid Atletico game as well. And I also want us to talk about whether we should focus all our baskets in the Champions League and just forget about the Premier League. We already know that Arsenal will qualify for the next round of the Champions League through second place. Unless otherwise, I don't expect us to drop into third. But even if we do, I don't think finishing third and winning the Premier League, or finishing third and going to the semi-finals of the Champions League, I don't think that is worse than finishing second and just, losing out in the Champions League. So let's start off with the performance. I want to know who was your man of the match, because it was given to Martin Odegaard, and I couldn't agree more. He had such a very beautiful game, scoring twice as well, and that assist for Ricardo Calafiori. That is what I want to see from Martin Odegaard. Now, of course, we've got to agree that our captain is not very comfortable in the number 10. He's more comfortable in the 8, a little bit slightly deeper, dictating play and pulling the strings as the likes of Ethan Nwaneri, Saka, Trossard go on to occupy the attacking positions of the pitch. But yesterday, Odegaard showed us something. It can't be bad all the time. It is easy to switch from bad to good, and that's what we saw from Arsenal. Because this was a team that we all said we need to win against West Ham, and we didn't. We need to win against Nottingham Forest, and we didn't. And our problem was scoring goals. And this is a team that just switched it up, because scoring goals, according to many people, is one of the hardest things in football. Defending might not be that difficult, goalkeeping might not be that difficult either, and even keeping possession might be solved. But when it comes to putting the ball in the back of the net, that is something everyone is really afraid of. Everyone respects that. But for Arsenal to go and put like seven goals past PSV, that was something. From two very bad performances over 180 minutes to a superb 90 minutes performance. Kudos Mikel Arteta, kudos to Arsenal. That was refreshing, that was therapy. Now, my key takeaways from this game, I want to start with Martin Odegaard, because he is a key takeaway. We know that Odegaard is the creative masterpiece of this team, but we've always missed one thing. What if Odegaard doesn't create? And that is what the likes of Lewis Kelly, Ricardo Calafiori bring to this team. We saw yesterday that although Arsenal scored 7, all those 7 goals were not created by Martin Odegaard. He did create for Calafiori and he scored twice, but that means that there were other ways of creating chances. For example, the 1-2 touch football between Calafiori and Trossard that leads to Trossard's goal. That was actually beautiful. And then you look at Declan Rice's cross to the back post for Jelan Timber. That's another chance created. And Lewis Kelly's cutback for Ethan Nwaneri to combine for the second goal. That was also something that was created. So we don't have to rely on Martin Odegaard 100% in order for us to create chances. And that is going to change the way Arsenal approaches games, but also the way teams approach Arsenal in games. Because if you can use Ethan and Mary to create, you can use Rice to create, Skelly to create, then it means that teams have a wider range of players to focus on rather than just Martin Odegaard. I love that. And then I think because many players around Odegaard played their best game and they had a lot of freedom to do whatever they wanted and maneuver, it created one of the best nights for Martin Odegaard. The goals he scored are pure Martin Odegaard goals. That is where he wants to be, at the edge of the penalty area or just inside the penalty area. We know that those are his goals, but the reason as to why he hasn't been scoring them a lot of the time these days, he's been having the ball and having the responsibility to carry the team, and he's looked absolutely awful. But when we let it run, right? When we let the ball slide into Trossard, slide into Rice, get into Lewis Kelly's feet, we saw that Odegaard had a lot of time to maneuver spaces, move from one end of the pitch to the other, which actually created a very, very interesting scene. So for me, Odegaard was the first takeaway. Other players playing with a lot of freedom just allows Martin Odegaard to be the best version of himself. That is number one. But also, as other players can create chances, it will help Martin Odegaard to run away from his markers and just have the freedom to play. The second takeaway from this game is the goals back. Now, obviously, you can't say the goals are back, but without Gabriel Martinelli and Saka, who are coming back very quickly, Arsenal put 7 past a good PSV side. Actually, in many people's predictions, it was always PSV 2, Arsenal 1, or Arsenal 2, PSV 1. And that showed you the level at which PSV are and why we've got to respect them and why we needed to respect them. And I really gave them maximum respect coming into this game. But have Arsenal found a way, after failing to score in 2 consecutive games, very important games, have we found a way? Or is it just a PSV side that wasn't really prepared for the sheer volume of hunger and anger that Mikel Arteta had injected into this team? This is what I'm going to say. When I think about the goals, and when I look back at them, because I looked back at the goals this morning, these are goals that are replicable. The 2 Odegaard goals, we have seen them before, which means that on a good day or on a consistent basis, these goals can be scored again. Same as the Leandro Trossard goal, same as the Ricardo Calafiori goal, same as the Merino, same as the Neneri, and same as the Julian Timber goal. So that shows you that this team is not counting on luck, but we are actually trying to find actual use cases, and we're trying to actually find actual scenarios where we can create goal-scoring opportunities and capitalize on them. There is something that is very interesting about that performance yesterday, but that is my takeaway number 3. And it's about the defenders. I hope you noticed, right? If you've noticed it, let me know before I talk about it. So for me, that was the second takeaway, that Arsenal trying to find ways of scoring goals. And also I want to say this, with the appointment of a new technical director or sporting director in Barretta, who could be our next guy in charge of transfers, and he's so good at hiring strikers. I mean, Luis Suarez for Atletico Madrid, Antoine Griezmann for Atletico Madrid. He's actually that good, right? When it comes to when it comes to hiring strikers. I think Arsenal are trying to find a way of getting the goals, right from looking for a sporting director and also looking at the internal crisis that we have and looking for immediate situations. Takeaway number 3 was we scored 7 goals, but yes, Timber scored, and yes, it was a header, but it wasn't a set piece. If we look back at all the goals, they don't come from direct corners and they don't come from direct free kicks. I was very, very disappointed with Mikel at the beginning of the season, trusting defenders to give us goals that were going to win games. And at times it worked with Ricardo Calafiori and Gabriel Magalhaes, almost sinking Manchester City at the Etihad. But there was something that was really missing. And what was missing in that performance is that you really want to have other goal scoring opportunities apart from headers from defenders, because those can be easily dealt with. Otherwise, if they weren't, then probably Sean Dykes-Burnley wouldn't have been relegated and Stoke City would still be in the Premier League. So 7 goals without a direct header from a Gabriel Magalhaes or a William Saliba. And yes, the Julian Timber goal, that can be scored by anyone, because that is a beautiful run at the back post that is not tracked by any of the defenders at PSV. And therefore, if it is Saka, he scores that. If it's Merino, he scores that. If it is Gabriel Jesus, he scores that. And we have seen a couple of those being scored by someone like Olivier Giroud before, or someone like we haven't had very many good strikers, but maybe Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And that is a very big takeaway that Mikel Arteta needs to learn. Because you can score many from corners and direct set pieces, it doesn't mean you give up on the other ways of creating. You actually supplement. I think corners and free kicks are a way of supplementing. They're not a way of saying, look, we are now done. We have done it, right? I think they're a way of supplementing the goals. They're not a way of, being the only way you score goals, if that actually makes sense. The general performance was confusing because it was too good, like really too good. Arsenal played very well in the first 45 minutes of the game, and when we considered that penalty to Noah Lang, I was like, is it going to end like 3-2? Or are we going to come in the second half and try to defend our lead because we are away from home and then finish it off at the Emirates? It wasn't. Mikel Arteta and Arsenal came out of the dressing rooms and said, we are going to deal with you, PSV, and in the second half, we are going to put 4 past you. And it was very, very confusing because usually Mikel Arteta is so, I don't want to call it conservative, but I'm going to say safe. He's a safe manager that wants to protect his lead. And especially with PSV scoring towards the end of the first half, I was like, we are going to sit back and defend. But we put 4 past them. And that takes us to the Madrid game and the potential opponent in the qualifiers. Yesterday, Real Madrid at the Santiago Bernabeu did beat Atletico Madrid 2-1. Of course, Madrid taking the lead, an equalizer from Atletico Madrid, and eventually Madrid found a way to win the game. That really puts us in direct contact with Real Madrid. However, at the Wanda Metropolitano, Atletico Madrid have not been an easy team. Now, with Arsenal, what we saw yesterday is we are so good at playing teams that are willing to come out of their defensive shape and give us a challenge. We're so good at beating teams that don't want us to, just dominate, but they also want to show, hey, this is who we are. Case in point, Manchester City. Case in point, PSV. Case in point, a couple of other teams that we've beaten this season. The problem we have suffered a lot this campaign is Fulham, Aston Villa, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, and West Ham. What is that problem? Why does it seem like Kossi has talked about it before? Yes, a mid-block. Mid-blocks give us big problems, but also this season, low blocks have given us big problems. Obviously, a mid-block is a team trying to defend from the middle of the park, making sure that they are not so deep in their own half. And then a low block is when a team sits so deep closer to their penalty area and just making sure that you don't go through. What I've seen this season is very, very frightening. Arsenal will beat you, will devastate you when it comes to teams that want to play out, teams that are trying to have a fair share of possession, give their fans some entertainment. But teams that are boring, actually, we are not so good. So when it comes to Madrid and Atletico, I think Arsenal might be getting Real Madrid. I think Madrid can go to the Wanda Metropolitano. It's not going to be easy, but I think they can go to the Wanda Metropolitano and get a draw or even a scrappy win. If they do, they qualify for the next round, which is the quarterfinals, and Arsenal have already qualified for the quarterfinals. if we don't lose by 6-0 or by a difference of 6-0 at the Emirates Stadium, which I don't see happening. However, but we are. I mean, Arsenal really disappoint at the Emirates, but I don't see PSV coming back from this. So what I want to say here is that I think Arsenal are better off facing Real Madrid, although they are a higher level machine. Now, the reason that's why I'm thinking we're better off, I think Madrid concede and Arsenal can score, but also Madrid really attack. And that will leave a lot of spaces for us to exploit in Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, and Mikel Merino, with the likes of Ethan Nwaneri and Rice using their athleticism to roam around the pitch. So, yes, Madrid is winning that tie, and many people are actually afraid, but I don't think we need to be afraid. I think we need to be thankful.